Hello everybody, welcome. Welcome to our Enterprise Hub event tonight. We are here for Page to Stage, making the leap from writing to performance with Toria Garbutt, and we're very, very excited to get started. There are a few things to tell you about before we do. I've just lost my entire screen, one second. Little moment there. Okay, so a couple of things first before we get started. So this is an Enterprise Hub event. You might not know anything about Enterprise Hub, but do not worry, because by the time we finish this event, you'll know all about it, and I'm sure you'll want to sign up as well. Writing on the Wall is the first and only creative partner of Enterprise Hub, and we can offer you free startup advice for your creative business or to go freelance. We host lots of wonderful events like this, which are free for everybody. And we often always kind of piggyback on our wonderful The Writer's Block so that we can talk to our resident writers about their experience and any advice that they might have for living as a freelance artist or starting to grow your creative business. To sign up to Enterprise Hub, you have to be a resident in the Liverpool City region. You have to be 16 years or older. You can be unemployed, in education, in employment, that doesn't matter at all. And we're offering up to 12 hours of free creative business advice. So for tonight's event, we would advise that you put it onto gallery view so that you can see, speaker view, so that you can see Toria and myself having a chat. And there will be a Q&A section at the end where you can ask Toria any of your questions. You can do it in two ways. So I've got the wonderful Jenny with me today, who's on tech, and also our fantastic Lauren, who is our moderator. You can send a question to Lauren in the chat directly and she'll pass it on to me. Or if you're feeling brave later, and we would absolutely love for you to do this, you can turn on your camera and pop your hand up and come and ask us directly. The only other thing to say is we obviously have a zero tolerance policy of any disrespect to each other, and we want to make this room a comfortable space to be in. So please be aware of that when you're asking your questions and you're getting involved, and I'm sure that will be absolutely fine. So on to our fantastic resident writer. We are absolutely delighted to welcome Toria Garbutt. Since bursting onto the scene in 2014, Toria has been a regular tour support for Dr. John Cooper Clarke, most recently on his Luckiest Guys Alive tour, on which Toria performed her first European date. In 2016, Toria released her debut album, Hot Plastic Moon, via spoken word label Nymphs and Thugs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And in 2018, her first poetry collection, The Universe and Me, was published by Wrecking Ball Press. Toria has been involved in many projects, including working with young people and prisoners, relaying the importance of having your voice heard no matter what your background, and using your poetry to turn pain into purpose. Welcome, Toria.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So I think you're going to get us started tonight with a bit of creativity. I don't know about everybody else in the room, but I feel like I need this today. So thank you so much, Toria, if you could get us started with a performance.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to open up with a poem called First Kiss. My first ever kiss was John Paul Kowalczyk, Kowalczyk. His mum were called Julie, and his granddad were Polish, and I know this because I'd loved him for years. Held his hand in my head hundreds of times, hopes and hopes one day be mine. Oh, but I wasn't calm, not one little bit. And then in year 6, I got fit, and he asked me out. Wow, man, I couldn't believe it. Girls swarmed around like bees, socks pulled upright, at knees. John Paul says, will you meet him? Me with my boyfriend, and then with hers. 6 of us lined up in pairs against concrete wall at Sports Centre. Necking. We necked loads after that. In Ginnells, down quarries, in Park, up Quack, you cogged me up Broom Mill and back, me night in shining shell suit. Do you remember that time on my bed? You tasted like chicken tikka, your tongue were proper freezing, you were eager, you went, let's kiss like they do it on telly. Took me face in your hands and squished your lips all over mine, and all the time I'm feeling sorry for chicken. Or thinking how your breath was stinking of spices and flesh, mate. I brushed my teeth as soon as you left. You give me glass for gifts, we lit incense sticks and listened to Gabrielle. we smoked together as well. JP and Vicky, TLFE. True love forever, IDST, our love were boundless. It grew and grew and grew. And then on day before high school, I dumped you.
Amazing. Thanks, Toria.
Thanks, Amy.
That was gorgeous. I love that poem as well. Someone's just said straight away in the chat. Did you see that? I love this poem, one of my absolute favorites. Amazing. Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the most amazing things about it, Toria, is that you're taking those kind of embarrassing moments and just reliving the joy of it as well, and like being able to have a laugh at it.
Yeah, I think that's what we have to do, Amy. I think like we have to troll through our memories, find the embarrassing ones, and then write about them. Like, it's always the best material, I think.
Definitely, and I think it really connects with people as well, because everybody has those experiences. And like whenever I meet up with my friends and stuff, we don't talk about like, you know, like loads of stuff on people's achievements and stuff. You sit and you laugh at each other for some of the daft stuff you've done. Yeah. And you replay the same memories, the same stories, don't you? So what an amazing idea to kind of use that as your an idea for a poem.
Yes. Find the embarrassing stuff and just use it as material for poetry. And like, I find myself like these days, when an embarrassing thing happens, thinking this will eventually like make a good poem or a good story or something. So it's, you know, it's putting a positive spin on embarrassment, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Lovely. Well, we're here to talk a little bit about your experience as a writer and sort of getting into the advice that you can give anybody who's come along, who's also looking to get into the industry and get into the arts. I hate calling it the industry. Sorry, let's not do that. Get into the arts sector and you know, make a living as a writer. So my first question then, just to kick us off, is when did you start writing, and can you tell us about that moment when you decided that you were going to do it professionally?
Yeah, so I've been writing for a long time, just privately. And then by the time I decided to do it professionally, I think I were in, you know, my mid-30s. And I'd got to a point where I really I had nothing to lose. I don't think I'd ever really seen it as like a viable career option, but I think I was just in a particularly like unhappy place in my life where like I had nothing. I were out of work anyway, and I felt like, well, I might as well just have a go at it. So so it was one of those, if anything, it was just one of those moments where like, you know, I'd been kind of like held back for so long and things, and been so happy that it was a case of like I might as well just give this one thing my all, because like I've got nothing to lose really. And it's not like I had a job to leave to go through that whole risky kind of like, oh, can I give up all this money, because I didn't have any money anyway. So you know, even starting to get 50 quid here and there were already like a massive improvement for me. And
because you're spending longer hours doing it, I guess, as well, so like the enjoyment factor of it as a time kind of I'm just going to say a time sink then, but like, you know what I mean? Like spending a longer time on it, you know, it's rewarding, I guess.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So that kind of leads me on to my second question, which is kind of coming to it a little bit later, maybe. What are the benefits of that? Because I think a lot of people that come on our courses have often said, like, you know, oh, actually I went in this direction and it's only recently that I've decided to do this. Am I behind? I've not got this experience. But I kind of really want to talk about, well, what are the positives and what are the benefits of coming to it a bit later?
Well, yeah, and the first thing is like, I'm a great believer that just things happen when they're supposed to happen as well. So I don't really think that I had that same kind of energy and determination earlier on in my life. That it didn't matter to me as much as it did at that particular point. And also, you know, suddenly I had all these stories to tell and life experience and being in an abusive relationship and bringing kids up. So, you know, suddenly I had something to say. So it's definitely something that worked in my favor. I think like as I think for working class people, I think we have this belief, or I definitely did, that, you know, like it's kind of impossible to make a career out of being an artist, because we feel as though only people who've got money in the first place can afford to make art and can afford to get into the industry. So I think those beliefs probably held me back for a long time anyway, until I got to a certain time in my life where it was just a case of like, well, you know, sod it, like I might as well have a go at it. At which point I found somebody else who was already doing it, the thing that I wanted to do, and who happened to be Mike Garry, and used that as a blueprint really for me. Like, well, if I want to do this thing, I'm going to find somebody else who's from my background, and I'm going to find somebody else who's talking about the things I'm talking about, somebody else who's older, and I'm going to ask him, how did he do it? You know, how did he do it? And follow in his footsteps, really, which I think is the best way to learn anything, you know, like especially in this industry, like qualifications really aren't necessary. You know, it is just a case of find somebody who's doing it and ask them how to do it, you know, build a community around yourself and connect with other people.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing here with the Writers Block, really, and it's the core of what we do on every single course that we have, because we invite, you know, artists and published writers who've often had a non-traditional route into kind of what they're doing, because like you said, you can't be what you can't see, really. So as soon as you do see someone do that, you can go, oh, okay, tell me how you did that, and then you can work it out yourself, your own kind of journey into it.
Yeah, it's exactly that, Amy. And like, and not just that, it's that thing of once you're around other people who kind of become your creative tribe, and they become mirrors for what you're doing and how you're feeling, opportunities open up. So whether you go to a poetry event or whatever it is, whatever creative event you go to, somebody will tell you about another thing that will lead to another thing, you know, or my mate so-and-so works in a school, would you like to come into the school to give a talk about what you do? It's that thing of coming together, isn't it, and sharing your knowledge and your creativity.
Yeah, and boosting each other up as well, because the biggest difference I always find is absolutely kind of seeing on the course people connect as a group and lift each other up as a group, and then knowing that when that course stops after 12 weeks, that hopefully they'll stay in touch, and that they can do that, you know, going forward, and there's a bit of a legacy there for them and a support network. But yeah, totally, that sounds, there is lots of benefits, isn't there, to that?
Yeah, it's been the most important thing to me, really, like in my whole journey, having a community of people around me for that, for support and for opportunities. And yeah, it is, you know, I don't think that any of us would be able to do it on our own. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't really work like that in the art. So yeah, community definitely number one.
Well, I've got a kind of question actually that leads on quite well from what we're having a chat about now. In an interview with the Griffin, you quoted saying punk, because you know you self-label punk poets, and you said punk is an ethos that states, I've got something to say and I don't care if you don't like it, which I think is amazing. And I think it's such an interesting thing, especially with WoW's ethos, is that you've got these big publishers when you're trying to get in, you know, trying to get published, and they're very kind of they're the gatekeepers of what they like, what they don't like, what they can sell. And I love the idea that the ethos that you're talking about is, well, I'm saying this, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But that kind of really leads us on to the importance of communities, and also the importance of independent presses and independent recording studios. So maybe you could talk a little bit about Nymphs and Thugs for us and your involvement with them.
Yeah, so well, first of all, I'll just say this, I've been having a chat with somebody recently from this course actually about publishers and you know, where does our work belong, and what if we get rejected and things like that. And I think we've got to be so thick-skinned, because I've been rejected lots of times. My work isn't for everybody, you know, and that's okay, because our work will always be for somebody. You know, I'm not for everybody. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Because the people who belong in my tribe, then there they are, you know, and they get it. And I think it's exactly the same with spoken word. It's about trying out lots of little different open mic nights, you know, and just kind of getting a feel for where you belong and where your work sits. And it's exactly the same with publishers, you know. So like you were talking about indie presses, it's about, you know, reading what else is out there, reading all these amazing, wicked indie poetry pamphlets, and getting a sense of like, oh, this feels a little bit like what I'm doing, you know, this flavour feels a little bit like my flavour. Maybe they'd like to see some more of my work. And it's about, you know, so much of it, Amy, is about confidence and going, yeah, I do belong there actually, and my work is good enough to go with that press. So Nymphs and Thugs have just been, you know, an amazing platform for me, an amazing champion of my work. So when I first started out on my journey, Matt Abbott, who runs Nymphs and Thugs, which has become the like leading spoken word label, I reckon, in the UK, he was the first person to say, you know, you're really good at this, and would you like to come along with us on tour and we'll pay you? And like, wow, you know, that just blew my mind, because I had like, apart from going to an open mic night and having a couple of people say, oh, you're good, I didn't really know. You've got to test it in front of people to know whether it's any good or not.
I know what you mean. Yeah, you're like,
you know, like,
how's it landing?
Yeah, exactly. You don't know until someone tells you. And I think when somebody whose opinion matters to you, when someone who you respect tells you you're good, you know, you can do this. It's everything. Like, it's just everything. Suddenly it's like you've got this confidence about you, and you're like, yeah, this is my thing. And, you know, I might be a bit too sweary for some people, and I might not be traditional enough for other people, but actually it's working because somebody likes it and I think they're cool, so then it must be all right what I'm doing. So it's like, that's that first little step of finding somebody, like we were talking about earlier, who's already doing the things that you want to do, whose opinion you respect, to give you that kind of validation and a bit of a leg up. So Nymphs and Thugs are an amazing platform like that, and I would urge everybody to follow Nymphs and Thugs on Instagram and just see what's going on the UK spoken word scene. It's also a great platform for online publication, so they often accept submissions. In fact, they're constantly accepting submissions and publishing online stuff, you know. So for some people it's the first time they've ever been published, so you know, just to be able to go, I've been published online by Nymphs and Thugs, you know, it's that first feeling of validation, I think, that we all need, that will inevitably lead to another publication, you know.
Massively. So just as a little side question, do you have anybody in your life that you share your work with first and you want their opinion on first, like maybe not quite the finished draft?
Yeah, so it's Mike Gary, and it's always been Mike Gary, and we've always had a kind of mentor-mentee relationship. So, you know, right from word go, Mike's the one who I would go to in my poems, because he's so honest actually, and like, he's not, you know, sometimes he's said to me, and I really like, why have you chosen that line? I'm not sure if that's working or not, or do you really need that last line there? So, or that's, you know, that's amazing. When someone says something's amazing all the time, it stops being meaningful. So what you want is somebody who's really honest and whose opinion you respect. And because we spend a lot of time together on the road as well, we often like try out new stuff in front of each other while we're driving. I think it probably works both ways. We probably try our new stuff out on each other, and it sounds so different, you know, from that first reading to actually being on a stage and it becoming a performance. And it wouldn't get to that stage without that reading in front of another person and somebody saying to you, you know, when you say that line there, it's fucking great, that line, you know, and then suddenly you got this confidence in that line, you know. So by the time you're on stage, you're loving that line, you know. Somebody once said to me, why don't you ever do The Universe of Me? I like that one. And I was like, oh dear, I'd never think to do that. And then since that one person said it to me, it's like it's part of my set at every gig now. So, you know, you don't know till someone tells you.
Yeah, that's lovely then. So you've got kind of Mike as your like person that you're dealing with like earlier drafts, and then you're still taking feedback on performances from people who come back to you at the end.
Yeah, probably more so from the audience, really, because basically it's all about them. You know, I just want them. I want the audience to be happy, and that's what it's about in it. As a performer, you're there for them and like for that connection. So, yeah, feedback from audience is everything, because ultimately, that's the reason why I'm there doing it.
Yeah, and that's kind of links back to what you were saying before a little bit about the rejection is, and the having kind of your own thing to say, your own voice, being confident in that, and then that maybe gives you the thicker skin to sort of go, okay, well, that's your opinion and I really appreciate that, and yes to that, no to this, and like you can actually kind of use that skill to build up a bit of a thicker skin but still take things on board.
Yeah, and to be honest, Amy, like most of the time anyway, it is, you know, people have got positive feedback. For the people that come over to you after a gig want to say nice things, it tends to be, you know, if anyone's going to have a little dig, it might be a little comment online or something like that, or a rejection from a publication. But the good far outweighs the bad. Do you know what I mean? Those things just start to not matter, I think.
Yeah, totally. It'd be pretty barefaced just to walk up to you after a gig, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Give you a bit of negative feedback.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just get my glass around. Lovely. So, I mean, talking about performance then, because we have said that this our event's called Page to Stage. How did you develop your kind of performance? Do you have a performance persona, or is it just like you've kind of practiced it in a certain way?
I think that when we perform, we become a more exaggerated version of ourselves, because we're filling a bigger space for starters, and it's not just about reading it from the page, it's about it becoming a connection and a performance. So you're already filling a bigger space, so the way that we need to project our voice is different from how it would be if we were just reading my book. I think for me, like, the first thing was just to get really comfortable with the poems that I'd written privately, just between me and the poems at this point, before I'd taken it anywhere else. I had to get really comfortable and weed out the words or the lines that I felt a little bit iffy about. Like, there'd be some lines in there and I think, no, I've just put that in because it rhymes. You know what I mean? Like, to be really honest with myself about it, because it's like, if I'm going to take this out and say it to people, they have to believe that I believe myself.
Yeah.
So, like, I think half the battle is believing in what you're saying. You know, you're telling the audience something, and you have to deliver it in a way that you're confident in what you're saying, because one, if you don't believe yourself, they're not going to believe you. And two, if they feel uncomfortable or nervous for you, or you go up there being apologetic, then you're making them feel edgy. And what you really want is for your audience to feel in safe hands. So, you know, even if you're completely terrified, you know, please don't admit it to the audience. You know, please don't go there and go, I'm terrified. You know, I'm terrified and I'm really sorry and this draft's not finished and blah, blah, blah. The audience don't want to know that, you know. So even if you're terrified, like, act like you're not terrified, you know, act confident, act like you mean it. Record your poems. That's always a good idea. Like, record them and just listen to them all the time in the house. Get really comfortable with them so that you start to know them. You know, you start to know them like song lyrics. Even if you're going up there with paper, it's so useful to know your words in your head, so that you're not reading it. It's kind of there as a little reminder, but you're delivering it instead. The more you know it, the more comfortable. And actually, like, the more you get used to the rhythms of the poem, and you'll start to find that the more times you do it, the more it kind of sounds the same each time. You'll develop a way, just like a song, you'll just develop a melody with it and a rhythm. Get to an open mic night with it. It's the only way to try it out, really. You've got to get in front of people. There's no two ways about it. It's the scariest thing. It's the scariest thing you'll ever do. Like, I've performed in front of much bigger audiences now, but that first time at an open mic night would just the scariest. And there's no shortcut. Like, you've just got to do it and grow from it.
Yeah. Do you think when you're doing that, do you think it was the high was worth it afterwards? Like, that's why you just thought, yeah, this is for me.
100%, 100%. It's like, you know, when you get off karaoke and you just like put your name straight back down the shoot song because you've so enjoyed singing I Will Survive. It's a bit like that, like you just can't wait to get back up again. The adrenaline is amazing. And I was talking about this the other day as well in one of the sessions. The physical feeling in your body, the adrenaline pumping through your body, right, that's not going to go anywhere. So you can't get rid of that. You are going to feel like, I always feel completely rushing with adrenaline, but like it's the same feeling whether you're nervous or excited. The physical feeling's the same. So the only thing you have on any control over is what's going on in your head. So rather than thinking like, this is terrifying, oh my God, you've got to change the thoughts in your head to, I can't wait, this is really exciting, I am loving this, you know. So we have no control over the physical bit, but the mental bit is the thing that we can do something about. Yeah,
definitely. And invite your friends along, you know, tell them to come, give you a little cheer and encouragement. So obviously we're talking about being able to perform in person, which I'm sure we all miss. But I thought we could have a little bit of a chat about what our situation is now in terms of being online, and how important that is. And you were featured in the article for the Guardian, the Rise and Rise of Poets, and they talk about the raw material for spoken word has been out there for as long as there's been people, really. Like, you know, we've had that kind of storytelling and connection through that. But the internet and social media has lifted it out of the geographical areas and allowed anyone and everyone to access it. So just thought we could talk a little bit about your experience of being online as a poet. What are the pros of it? Is there any negatives that you've kind of had to kind of overcome?
So at first I was a little bit wary about doing gigs online just because I'm a bit of a technophobe and I didn't know how it would work. But what I've realised is it's a completely different space. So originally I thought, am I going to be trying to recreate a stage in my living room? Like, will I stand far away from the laptop? Will I put a glitzy bit of material behind me? You know, like, you can't do that really. Well, I can't, not for me. So like what I've learned to do is like just embrace the kind of intimacy of an online gig, you know, and it's a much closer space. Actually, it's amazing how personal and intimate it can feel in this kind of space. So it's a whole new thing, and like you've said, it's amazing that people can come from all over the place, you know. So it's the audience are a real mix, which is lovely. It opens up so many more opportunities for people who maybe, you know, can't drive or, you know, aren't able-bodied or whatever that barrier might be for them. It overcomes that barrier. I think it's great. I think there's a lot of snobbery actually, or there has been a lot of snobbery generally in poetry. I think there's a lot of snobbery, right? And I think there's been some kind of snobbery around this idea of insta poets, people putting things on Instagram. I think it's brilliant. Like, I just think if you want to get your stuff out there, like, get it out there. It might not be everybody's cup of tea, but, you know, in the same way that there's a difference between like fine art and contemporary art, do you know what I mean? Like, so in poetry, like, there's something for everybody.
Room for everything.
There's room for everything. So I see it as an amazing thing. People can always choose not to take part if they don't want to. But yeah, it's been going years, and I think it's not, you know, it's not a kind of like private thing that you do in your bedroom anymore, or you might join a little writers group, and, you know, it's definitely widening, and it's definitely becoming kind of cooler as well. I think it's quite a cool thing to do. I think it's cool because it's so brave, Amy. It's like, it's the most stripped back art form, really. You know, I used to play in a band. There's no hiding like behind a guitar, you know what I mean? Like, it's just you on stage, bearing your soul. Like, it's scary, you know, and because of that, the buzz is huge too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been so interesting because we've experienced that a little bit at Writing on the Wall, because we've done so much over the last 18 months during lockdowns, when we were just getting used to stuff, to kind of like the thrill of some of it, of the fact that, oh my gosh, we can actually engage with loads more people, and lots of people have fed back to us that they couldn't have done some of the other stuff we were doing, that there might be like things at home going on. Maybe they're caring for people, they just can't cut out like 5 hours of their night to go and do that, but they can watch, you know, our event tonight, they can watch the writers the festival events while they're cooking tea and while they're doing something else. So it's just opened up a whole new world, and it was so exciting. And then now I do feel like a lot of people are having kind of like been online for a long time now, so that we're almost getting a slightly different relationship with it. But I kind of like that, because we're beaming into people's houses. We've all been through not the same experience, because obviously it's been very different for different people, and everybody's got different home experiences. But I've just, the evolution of it's kind of been amazing, and what an amazing thing to make sure that we're using this for, like poetry, art, connection. It's great.
Amazing, and something that we wouldn't have done otherwise, so what a great thing. Even if it's just a case of we do, it becomes a mixed bag, of online performances and going out. But I hope it's something that stays, really, this has
definitely
been great.
Definitely. So just staying on online bits and bobs for a little bit longer, we've got a question about social media. So just practically, like, how do you use social media? What's the most important things? If people have never really kind of got into it yet, what are the key platforms you think you should be on when you're trying to promote yourself as a professional writer?
Yeah, so I'm not great at this. My friend Matt Abbott is really good at helping me with the online stuff. He set up my website for me. I think he set up my Instagram for me. And yeah, I probably don't engage on there as much as I should. He's always talking about the importance of building an online presence.
Yeah.
That's
a phrase you've heard a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, you can tell, can't you? Yeah, I've been told that, and I can see it definitely is important. But I also think, I'll tell you what it is with me. I don't want to give too much away, so I think get yourself out there, right? Get a website set up and some maybe some links to your work, and link up with other people. That's what I think social media is the most important, the most useful for, linking up with other people, seeing what other people are doing, seeing what events are on, where can I send my work, who's putting a call out for publications, and building that community tribe. That's what I really love social media for. What I don't tend to do, and I think it's wicked that other people do, for me personally, I don't tend to put a lot of my written poetry out there, because I think for me personally, like, there's something quite nice about holding it back, and waiting until it's part of a collection and then releasing it as a book. So what I would say to people is, yes, put poems out there, but don't give everything away. Don't give all your stuff away, because otherwise how are you going to sell your poems? Like, you've got to think about making money out of this as well. So, don't give your stuff away for free. Don't undersell yourself, because I started out being one of those people that were like just giving my books and CDs to everybody, and we can't really, and like, we've got to do it for each other as well. We've got to set a standard where, like, this is worth this amount of money, and I'm going to sell it to you, and that's the expectation for me and other artists, that we pay for each other's work, and it's worth it. Don't sell yourself short, and don't give too much away.
And I think that kind of links back to what you're saying before about confidence. It's like confidence in your own the worth of your own art, really, isn't it? It's just saying, no, this is worth it, you're going to really enjoy this collection, and this is how you should see it, or come see me perform it here. So yeah, that's really good advice. Exactly. Talking of money, with Enterprise Hub, we're trying to kind of like demystify the process. So if we get down to a bit of like a behind the curtain on finances, what's your advice? What have you found works for getting your poems published, for earning some money from your art?
So look, putting a book out there is not a big earner, realistically. I just noticed someone had put a comment up there. Somebody mentioned the word exposure. That really pisses me off. If people, listen, when you're first starting out, okay, get up there, do it for free because it's a bit of practice for you. By the time you've really honed your set and you've got, say, 5 really tight poems, and you've built a bit of a name, and people are used to seeing you at the open mic, and you're starting to be asked to come along and maybe headline at a gig, like, we want paying. We want paying. We've worked at it, we've put hours into it, we deserve paying. So this whole thing of being invited to come along and do it for exposure, I mean, maybe a little bit at first if you want the practice and you want to test it out. I just think open mics are great for testing things out. By the time you're being asked to come and perform a headline slot at a poetry night or something like that, you don't want to be doing it for exposure. You want to be doing it for money. You know, like exposure ain't going to pay your bills. So don't be scared to ask for a fee, because often people say, what's your fee? And I think especially women in the arts find it more difficult. So, you know, it's about going, well, actually, this might be my only work for the next week. I might only do this one thing in the next week. You know what I mean? So, and it's taken me this long to prepare it, and I've got to drive there to do it. So you've got to take those things into consideration. The other thing is, like with book sales, for example, if you're with a publisher, the reality is that at best you might get a 50-50 split. More realistically, you might get a 70-30 split to your publisher, right? So that's the reality of it. So you've got to be creative about how you earn your money with this kind of thing. So for me, it's, you know, I've joined a tour, so I'm getting paid for my performance, and then it's also things like going into schools and running poetry workshops. So as a writer, you can't just live on book sales alone. You've got to have a whole little
skill set that you can whip out.
Exactly, yeah. So it's things like school visits, and it's like letting people know that that's what you do. Sorry, I'm just reading. It's about letting people know that that's what you do. So it might be a case of putting it out there on social media, like I'm running poetry workshops in school. Inbox me if you're interested. People aren't going to know you're doing that unless you say. You don't need any teaching qualifications to go into a school and do a poetry workshop. You just need to have some experience of writing poetry. So and you know, knowing how to share that information with other people. So it's things like running poetry workshops. I'll tell you what's been a really good thing for me, the Arts Council.
Yeah.
So like as a working class person, I'm not someone who's had savings. I'm not somebody who's had a financial leg up in life. So literally, like when I first applied for an Arts Council grant, like I was just living out of my overdraft. I had absolutely no savings, had never had savings. And this is like, you know, I'm only talking about like a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I think 2 years ago, maybe I got my Arts Council grant. And that's really changed things for me. And that's given me some financial security to be able to write and make new work that I've never really had before. And you know, and that's something that we need to, there's barriers there with the Arts Council application. So what I would say is find someone who's already been given an Arts Council grant and ask them, how did you do it? So I've helped a few people now to get an Arts Council grant. There's a way to do it, like there's a way to do everything. You want to do anything in the arts, find someone who's done it. And have a go.
Have you got like a couple of things you could just get us started on? So like with Arts Council grants, I would say that you'd need kind of samples of your work. You'd need samples of you getting out there and getting your work out there, maybe some community engagement.
Yeah, exactly. I think before you go for a grant, you need to have already, you know, you need to show that you are already being an artist in the world, right? So that you're part of a community of other artists, that you, maybe it's that you've put an event on, maybe you've done it for free just for the experience, right? Maybe you're going to run your own poetry night or something like that. All these things are so valuable. Not giving yourself away for free, but doing things. Sometimes you've got to do some things for experience, because you know that it's going to come in at a later date, and you can say, I've already got the experience of doing this. Can I have some money for it now, please? So yeah, getting your name about and connecting with other people, and setting up your own events and engaging with other professionals, and
signing up for Enterprise Hub, where you can get 3 hours of business support with things like applying for Arts Council funds, applying for crowdfunding, you know, finding small pockets of money. Because sometimes, you know, you can even find like a small pocket of money to run the event, and then use that as your example to go for a bigger grant.
The Arts Council, this is it. They're all little stepping stones, aren't they? Or, you know, it's like there are little pockets of money out there, and I never realised that. Like the money is there, it does exist.
You've
just got to know how to tap into it. Yeah, you've just got to know how to tap into it, and you can tap into it. And once you've tapped into it, whether it's your first few £100 to put on a little thing or whatever it is, once you've tapped into it, it keeps coming then because you're in. You know, you just got to get on that first little bit of the ladder, and then you're in.
And just to acknowledge that there are barriers to that for lots of people, and you know, it's a long term thing that's happened for a long time. Like, it's, you know, like you were saying before, Toria, that there's kind of, we kind of looked at, I was the same, like you look at art and you think, oh, that's not for me, and that's not true at all. We're just told to think that, and the way to get around that and to do that is to find your community, to work with people like Writing on the Wall and Enterprise Hub, and yeah, smash the barriers.
There are barriers, and I think the biggest thing for overcoming those barriers is just self-belief, that you deserve it. You know, it's confidence that you know, it's that little voice in your head that goes, no, I do deserve to get that money, and I'm good at what I do, and I am going to have a go at it. Because once you've got that belief, you will find people to help you. Once you're internally motivated to do it, that's all it is. It's just a little change of mind.
Definitely. Just someone learning. Lovely. So I'm gonna ask anybody who is interested in asking any questions to Toria, if you want to pop your hands up now or pop them in the chat. We'll get going with some of your questions, because it's already 7:15. How did that happen? We just chat away here. So yeah, please pop your questions in, and I'm sure Toria will be happy to answer them.
I've noticed there are a few questions in there, Amy. Should I go ahead and read some?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, brilliant.
Cool. Let's see. John Paul Kowalczyk, that is his real name. And, you know, I hope he don't mind, basically. I figured that it's all right because we're like nearly 40 now. So I hope he just finds it funny type thing. I mean, the thing is, like, John Paul was like, everyone wanted to be John Paul's girlfriend, you know what I mean? He was like that kid who everyone wanted. So if anything, it's like, I feel like it's a poem all about my adoration of John Paul. It just, you know, it ended badly, but, you know, we were 11. It's just one of those things.
You've made him famous. Choice 5.
These things happen. I have had to change other names though, and I have been in trouble before for not doing. Yes, Matt Abbott runs a bi-monthly event called Chelpin Leeds Library. Get all over Matt Abbott, everybody. He's the guy that you all need to be linking up with. People cooking with headphones on, how to set your prices, exposure on a free copy. Okay, so when I first started out, I was getting like 50 quid for a headline set, for a little kind of like 15-20 minute set, and because I'd not been doing it that long, I would just thought, 50 quid's great. Like, I was just really happy to be taking 50 quid for it. The more experienced you are, I feel like the more you can ask for. So, you know, once you've been doing it a couple of years and you're feeling confident with it, you want to be asking for like a couple of £100 plus for a headline set at a gig, you know.
Absolutely. I think Laura's just popped in. I feel weird doing the same poems over and over, but is it okay to keep doing your Wonderwall poems at different open mic nights?
I like, this is the thing, right? So it's not, so it might not be new to you, but it's probably still, it's going to be new to the people listening. So especially if you take this set of poems round to different open mic nights, it's going to be new to the audience there. And the more you do it, the better at it you're going to get, the more confident, the more comfortable, the better your performance is going to be. Because don't forget, even if it's a poem that you've done loads of times, it's still growing and growing and growing. So keep taking it out there, because my version of the poems now that I wrote ages ago, they're so different. The way that I perform them now is so different from how I started out. And the other thing is, even if it's poems that other people have heard a few times, that's a good thing. It's like when you go watch a band and you're like, yes, I love this song. So like, I started with a John Paul Kowalczyk poem and somebody put straight away, I love this one. You know, like, we like to hear the things that we already know. So don't be don't be scared to do that.
How would you suggest getting a collection of random poems together? Do you do it by theme? That's a great question from Angela. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Angela. Yeah, what I would say, if you're looking to say, let's get a pamphlet published with an indie publisher, I would think about a theme. I would think about how do these poems work together. So for your set as well, you know, when you're doing a set, let's say you've got 5 poems, you want to be thinking how you can kind of weave those together with a little bit of narrative in between, you know. Here's the first poem, and then a bit of chatting, you know, and then this is what happened next, and then a bit of chatting, and then this is what happened next. So it's always about trying to weave things together, and that counts for a collection too. So yeah, definitely a theme. And the theme might be something really general, like love. You know, it doesn't have to be totally specific.
Do you find writing titles comes really easy to you, or do you find titles one of the trickiest bits?
So I find titles really easy. I don't know why, really. I find titles easy. I think, say it again, Amy.
I'm just really jealous of that. I come up with like the cheesiest titles. I think it's years of writing like reports and stuff, and like they're just never very good to go with the poem. The poems are always better than the titles.
Is it? That's interesting. I think like sometimes my titles are just like a line out of the poem, maybe like the last line of the poem or something like that. I think I don't know, maybe it's from my band years. I like titles, and I like good titles of songs as well, so I don't know, I don't struggle with that.
Yeah. I've got a question from Helen. Is it worth self-publishing a pamphlet once you have a decent amount? Someone asked me if they could buy my poems recently.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, it's definitely a good money-making thing. I know a few professional poets who self-publish, and they make a lot more money than I do out of the books, because most of the profit, you know, is theirs at gigs. So it's kind of a punk way to do it, really, and more profitable. So yeah, definitely go for it. You've got the poems ready and you know how to do it. It's just an extra thing to be able to, but I think if you perform, people want to take a little bit of your home, so it's nice to have something, even if it's a little pamphlet and you're going to sell it for a £5 at a gig, you know, it's nice for people to have a thing. And you can self-publish like beautifully as well these days. I've seen some really nice self-published collections lately.
You really can. It's easier than you think it is, and definitely a better route to go down than like kind of vanity publishing and things like that.
Yeah, so more DIY.
Yeah, do it yourself, definitely. Sana said, is there a difference between writing songs and poems and songwriting, if you did do that when you were in the band?
Yeah, so I suppose the difference is that you know, there ain't a chorus, and there's probably, so it's interesting because I had a one-to-one with somebody yesterday who used to be in a band, and you can really tell in his poetry because he uses a lot of repetition, and it's got like a lovely sort of like melodic rhythm to it. So yeah, I think there is a difference, but I think they can overlap, and that's okay as well. And I think some of mine probably my poems would lend themselves to but the lyrics would lend the other way around. They would work either way, I think, some of them, and some are probably more definitely poems. But yeah, I think they're just different structurally and in terms of like using repetition and a chorus. But
yeah, definitely. We've got a question here, which is, what is your writing process like?
So I am lazy as fuck. No. So what it is, I tell you what it is, I try really, really hard to write something every day, right? Even if it's just open my laptop and read a half-written idea, look at it, right? And just like, and just change a couple of things in there if I can. And it just gives me that little bit of a boost, like, oh, I am a proper writer then, because look, I've opened a poem and I've done something with it. I definitely don't write constantly all the time. I don't. I've got 2 kids and I work and I study and I've got a really busy life, so I definitely don't write all the time. But then I'm also a believer in, like, we have to live a little bit as well, don't we? I've just read that question. Yes, I used to live on Westgate End. We have to live a little bit as well, don't we? And I think if we're constantly writing, like, you know, are we having time to live and observe and reflect? So I don't think there's anything
That's
wrong
true.
with not writing all the time. Like, if you want to watch Married at First Sight UK and not pick a pen up for the entire series, do it.
Yeah.
That's my advice. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not be hard on ourselves if we're not writing. It's okay if we're not writing. We're still writers if we're not writing, you know? Like,
Yeah.
let's not pretend we're all writing all the time. I'm certainly not. Do you know what I mean? But I'll tell you what I am doing. Like, and all the things I'm doing, like watching Married at First Sight UK. And
Really
all
plugging that.
like, it will probably end up in a poem anyway. Do you know what I mean? So
much material there, isn't it?
loads. Let's not be hard on ourselves. Let's enjoy our lives. You know, what else are we here for? You know, what's the point if we're not enjoying it? I'm not one of these people that's like, no, you must write every day. I think that's really off-putting to people. I think it puts barriers up, because then as soon as we're not writing every day, we go, God, I'm not even a proper writer because I've not written anything today. And it's like, that's not the case at all. Like, I went through a period recently after my sister died where I was writing every day because I felt like it were really helping me. And then I've probably not written anything now for about 3 weeks, apart from like academic stuff or, you know, like shopping lists.
Yeah, I think it really goes, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it really goes in cycles as well. Like, you've got a lot going on and sometimes you're just driven to sit down and write for a bit, aren't you? But I think that's why the writing bursts sort of work really well, because you can pick them up when you want to. And if you do 5 minutes and write for 5 minutes solid, if you throw what you've got away, that's okay, because actually it might just be you getting the words down on the page for the day, and then you can, you know, start fresh tomorrow or in a week's time, you know.
Exactly. Suit yourself. Do you know what I mean? Have 6 months off if you want. It's all fine. You're still a writer. You're still a writer.
Definitely. No one's taking that away.
Yeah, no one's going to take that away.
You are or you're not. Laura's just put she's just put Below Deck in a poem.
Oh my God, who said that? I am a huge Below Deck
Laura
fan.
Graham. I hope you don't mind me saying your name there, Laura.
Laura Graham, how do you know that I am the world's biggest Below Deck fan? I don't know if I've confessed this before. I'm now on Amazon Prime watching series 1. I've gone right back. I love it so much. That's exactly when this finishes tonight. I will be watching Below Deck season 1, episode 3, and I can't wait.
If only we could hear your poem, Laura.
Have you got one?
No, we have not. I won't surprise you on it right now, Laura. It's a quick performance. But yeah, send it in to us at WoW and we can pass it on to Toria. She'd love to read it.
Yes, I hope it's got Ben the chef in.
Maybe that's the title. Okay, so we're coming up to the last couple of minutes before we'll have to close out. So we'll just do any last questions, throw them in the chat, or if you want to just pop on the screen and ask us directly, you've got a few minutes to do that now. Sana said, at what point can you call yourself a writer or a poet?
Now, do it right now. Do yourself a favour. Pat yourself on the back. Here you are. You know, if you write, you're a writer. You know, let's take all the kind of pomposity and pretentiousness out of it, because I'll tell you what it was for me. It was hearing someone whose opinion mattered to me say, I like your writing. I think we need validation, don't we? We need somebody to say, I've read that. And I love it, you know. And I think we all need a bit of validation, but we're all writers already, and we're all poets already, and we're all creative already, you know. Every single one of us, we forget, actually. We forget, and I think we just have to reconnect with that creativity that is in every single one of us, you know. We are already all of those things. We just have to reclaim it, I think.
Yeah, and just by coming along to this event and getting involved and getting engaged, that's an incredible step. And there's lots of people in this room that we've worked with over the last year and who have work coming out in WoW collections at various times for the rest of the year. So definitely can call yourself writers.
Oh, thank you. That's a really lovely comment. That's amazing. This is it, Amy, isn't it? It's about suddenly going, I'm in a collection and it's my poems being published. We just need those little boosts from each other, don't we? Permission and validation to do it. So give yourself permission, you know, right now, do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Toria. I think we'll wrap up there. I've got a little bit more to tell you about what you can do next with Toria, but just to say, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Well, no, actually, stay right where you are because I've got some stuff to tell you. It's because you waved. It's just like an automatic reaction. I'm like, oh, goodbye.
Sorry, it's just below decks on. It's just I've got it on pause. So just wrap it up a bit, Amy. Yeah.
Yeah, then. Sorry, I'll wrap it up, guys. I'll wrap it up. So thank you so much to Toria. Toria's with us until next week, and you can join her tomorrow for her workshop, which is called Turning Pain into Purpose. I nearly read that as porpoise, but that's not the vibe. So that's tomorrow at 6 p.m. All of our events are free to sign up to, and you can just go to our website, which is www.writingonthewall.org.uk. I think, Lauren, if you could put that in the chat for me, and of course, you guys can just Google it. But yeah, sign up, get involved. We'd love to see you there. That particular workshop will be about visiting some of the difficult past experiences and bringing them into light, considering how our painful life events can propel us into transformation and how we can make us have a sense of these difficult emotions through writing. So it sounds fantastic, so don't forget to sign up to that one. So Enterprise Hub, if you're not convinced, where have you been for the last hour? This is your time. Why not sign up to this free advice? It's there for you. It's really simple to get started, and yeah, I think it's a huge benefit. Why not take advantage of it? So you can just go to the website, or you can email me directly at amy@writingonthewall.org.uk. We'll have a quick consultation and get you signed up. Thank you so much to our funders tonight, England's European Regional Development Fund, and we are in partnership with the Women's Org as well for Enterprise Hub. Thank you so much to anybody who's made a donation. We really appreciate it. And then if you would like to make a donation to Writing on the Wall, there will be a link to do so in our follow-up email, and also in the chat there. Look at Lauren, straight on it, straight on the donations, not so much the website. And also, you think you get away from it, but you can't. Please fill in a monitoring form. It takes a few minutes. We want your opinions on our events. We want to know how you want to see them in the future, and it really does shape how we do things. Thank you so much again to Toria. Thanks for everyone for joining us, and good night. Have a great evening. Wait, no. Bye. Bye, everybody.